I guess we might as well go ahead and jump right in. Um, so we're talking about Last Night in Soho, directed by Mr. Edgar Wright. I almost when I was googling him, I don't know why my mind went to Edgar Allan Wright. Was that ever was that ever his name, or am I just thinking confusing him with someone else?
Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, I don't know why,
Well,
but yeah,
Edgar's
go
not
ahead.
a very popular name, so the most famous Edgar is Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, there, that is the connection. Okay.
Yeah.
I really was typing that in. What a dummy. It's kind of awesome though. It kind of goes with this movie when you think about it. Um, so yeah, I guess to start off, I will say that for me personally, I am an Edgar Wright fan, but I really am mostly a fan of his Simon Pegg trilogy, um, which is Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. Huge fan of those. And what's interesting about him too is that he actually hasn't made like a ton of movies. He's got music videos and other stuff, but then there's also Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which I'm not a fan of. Baby Driver, which I almost despise, and Last Night in Soho, which yeah, we'll get into and talk about. What about you guys? What are your feelings towards Mr. Edgar Allan Wright?
Well,
I'll
I'll,
let
I'll
Mark
go.
go
I'll go.
first.
Yeah, I'll go first then. Well, to comment on Baby Driver, a very popular video game that I enjoyed playing was called Driver, where you just drive a car for the jobs. And so when Baby Driver came out, I got excited because I'm like, dude, this is Driver, but it's just called Baby Driver. And then all of a sudden, this whole love interest thing came into play, and I don't know. I'm starting to get annoyed with movies that always have to throw a love interest in. Like, I don't know why every movie has to have love. Like, just show me some mindless driving, some cool explosions. I don't know why all of a sudden everything's hinged on this girl now. So yeah, that's my two-bit part on Baby Driver. But I will say, Juan, it sounds like you are a I don't think you're an Edgar Wright fan. I think you're a Simon Pegg fan.
Ooh.
Well, no, we'll talk more about that when we talk about this movie. I'm not that big of a Simon Pegg fan. I mean, he's okay. He did, I think, write like co-write those movies, so I would do like his writing style, I guess. Although I don't know what other movies he's written that I would have seen apart from Edgar Wright. So
Fair
there
enough.
could
Fair
be
enough.
there could be something to that. I think more than anything, I'd say a Nick Frost fan.
Oh yeah, I love
I
Frost.
mean,
Yeah,
but
no, I'm with you on that. Oh yeah, I mean, looking at Edgar Wright's movies, that it's okay. There's really nothing that I would call home about. Minus the Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and World's End. But then I like it because of Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, and it really has nothing to do with Edgar Wright.
Kevin is just waiting for his moment to jump in and proclaim his love for Scott Pilgrim versus the World and
Listen, first of all,
tell us we're idiots.
oh no, I was not gonna. I'm not gonna attack anybody, but we do have differing opinions on some movies. Um, like I like the Simon Pegg movies. I think they're better written than his later movies. But for Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, even Baby Driver, and this movie a little bit, like I'm really a fan of his visual aesthetics.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yes.
Like
yes.
I'm not, and I even caught myself when I was watching this. Not so much the dialogue, so much, or even the plot, or sort. It's just visually, I just think it's awesome, and the music and everything was in those three movies, especially, just are killing it. And again,
Um,
I like the first, but it feels like they're two different. Like I don't know.
mhm.
There's those trilogies, and then this type of movie.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Although that again, that trilogy really it's really amazing what they've done because and I watched kind of few videos on it and stuff, but just the amount of like layers and sort of like the amount of detail that they wrote and put into that movie where they're like foreshadowing certain things and
Yeah,
so yeah they are uniquely good I think in his body of work
yeah.
but um yeah I don't know what anybody I don't know where I was going aside from that.
Well, to
But
go off what Kevin said, I agree 100%.
Yeah, right.
Visually, Ed, you're right. I mean, he makes a lot of great movies that are just pleasing for the eyes. So I will say that's probably the best thing that he's got going for him.
Yeah. And
Did you read Scott Pilgrim?
no,
The
no,
comic?
no.
I know Kevin did.
but yeah, like I did. Like I love Scott Pilgrim the comic. I like the movie a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, but I also really liked Baby Driver. Like I said, I wasn't in it too much for the love story, but just what he was presenting, I was enjoying.
yeah,
Well, and that's, we're talking about like how good he is aesthetically, and that's actually what I think hurt him in Baby Driver, that it was like all spectacle, no substance. The story was just dumb, the bad guys were dumb, like dialogue was like cheesy.
the ending was
Again,
crazy.
Yeah,
some of the driving stuff and the action sequences were cool, but
Yeah,
um, I did, and I think I told Kevin this the other day. Like, I really wish I would have loved to have seen his version if he had free reign for Ant-Man. That would have been really cool. And
yeah,
I think he was writing it too, right? And I think that was the
yeah.
problem, that they
yeah.
didn't like the direction he was going with it, or
I think
um,
what it was they wanted to blend it more with the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
yeah,
and it kept taking away from his story. He's like, it's just not what he wants to do.
they wouldn't give Simon Pegg a superhero to play in the universe, probably.
How great would that be if that's true?
Or Nick Frost, or both of them together.
Yeah. And that's funny. Like I feel like Ant Man's one of my lower liked MCU movies. It's
Yeah, me too.
okay.
Hmm.
I think I just liked it for Paul Rudd and Michael Pena,
Yep.
but it was
Yeah.
all right. I never like I have Ant Man towards the bottom of my list of favorites for the MCU.
Yeah, but in all fairness, it's a pretty big list with some really great movies on it.
Yeah, but that one feels
Well,
like the one like most geared to kids, you know, which is silly to say about comic book movies. But the rest are like more for, you know, um, men, children. That one actually feels in many ways like it's more
More
aimed
kiddish.
for kid. Yeah. Um, but what was not aimed for kids was Last Night in Soho. Um, and so, yeah, I guess I was surprised by how much I did like this movie. I would say what I most like, I think again, this one really, really, I think stands as like a great example of like how good Edgar Wright is as a director. Um, just again, yeah, the amount of detail and all the little tricks and stuff that he uses in it with like mirrors and angles and shots and yeah, just I think the story is there's a lot to unpack there, but I think I like the way that he went at telling that story. And I've got some things as we go on that I'll just that I took some notes, things that caught my attention or just questions that I had about it. But yeah, I guess I also for this I mean there's gonna be a little warning or whatever that I don't care about spoilers, so we can talk about anything. But yeah, I guess I'll give us a little rundown, a recap.
uh-huh.
Um, Basically, this girl in the countryside of England, this girl going to college. Um, she's going off to fashion school in London. Before all that, we kind of find out that her mom died when she was young, when she was 7, and and she kind of sees these visions of her. Um, and yeah, like she just appears and whatnot, and this has been an issue with her. She lives with her grandma. So anyway, she goes off to fashion school. Of course, she's a misfit because she still wants to live in the 60s. And surprisingly, we find out in the first few minutes that it's actually a modern era, the setting of the film. And then she does not like living in the dorms, where no one, she doesn't connect with anyone. So she rents out a room in a house nearby, with where the landlord is an older lady. She has kind of strict set of rules, which seems fine to the girl. Does any Ellie? Ellie was her name,
Yeah.
and and then
Eloise.
yeah, and then crazy things start happening. She starts to see these visions, and then uh, fantasy blends with reality, and she starts to kind of fantasize or follow this girl around again back in the 60s. And as she follows her and her pursuit of wanting to be a singer or movie star or whatever, she ends up uh, uh, getting pimped out by her manager, and then she ends up getting murdered. And so now we're off on this crazy and manic adventure to discover what happened to this girl, and as Ellie adventures to uncover her killer and solve this mystery. But it's way more bizarre than that, and yeah, to that extent, it'll be kind of hard to describe. And then there are some, just layers of, um, perhaps messages of, I don't know, maybe feminism is one you could argue. But yeah, before all that, what did you guys think of that rundown? Anything you'd like to add, or anything from the story that you want to point out?
Not that I want to point out. I will say, are we talking about how we if we like the movie or not?
Yeah, talk about whatever you want.
All right. I actually did not like the movie at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you
At
used
all.
the word manic, and that is what I disliked about the movie the most. Like, I get it. He sees things and it's freaking her out, but goodness gracious, after the fourth mental breakdown, I was just over it. Like, I get it,
Yeah.
but he these things, and it's just like, oh, okay. And I don't know. I didn't. I don't like. I don't mind bullying in movies. I get it, but they're all adults. And
Hmm.
who she roomed with, I forgot her name, Jocasta, I think it was.
Jocasta.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like I just felt like like it was for what? Like I don't know. And then I won't get into the end just yet, but yeah, I didn't like the way it ended either. I thought it was kind of funny and silly, but
Hmm.
yeah, I feel like there's I enjoy horror movies, so I think there's many other horror movies you can watch instead of this one. Visually it was
Hmm.
nice. The cinematography was great. All the different angles that he was shooting from was well, not him, but whoever was doing the cinematography. Yeah, it was nice to look at, but the story itself and just the dragging on of I see dead people, I was just over it after I think it was the hour and 20 mark when she finally was going to do something about it. And I'm like, man, it took her an hour and 20 minutes to finally go to the library and start looking this up. And then it just kind of quickly unraveled and ended. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was I got bored very quickly.
Okay.
But I feel like I was in between you two because there's parts of the movie where it's where I think I'm like, hey, it was very like almost like Mark was saying, like the characters were very two dimensional, like those
Hmm.
bullies. Like
Yeah.
they had a moment. They're like, hey, both our moms are dead. Okay, I'm gonna be an a hole to you.
It's like, for what? You guys
Yeah.
you just said we have something common. And then when she mentioned that I think that her mom killed herself, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you're so brave." And then the bully goes, "Yeah, my uncle killed himself. So yeah,
Yeah,
we have that too."
Uh,
It's like, dude, you're not in high school. That's what high schoolers do. You
uh,
guys
she
are in
went up there.
college. You
Yeah.
don't have time to measure dicks, I guess, for lack of better
Hmm.
phrase. But it was weird, and it was just like, for what? I
and
don't
and
understand.
I felt him as a writer. I think he was just doing that because he needed them to behave that way to move her out of the dorm. You know what I mean? And even when she
Yeah,
overheard them in the bathroom, when she pulled up her, they were like, "Oh, can you believe her? Yeah, she's whatever." It just felt
but
like it
that's
was
more
needless. Like
believable.
who? No, but to me, who's gonna go to the bathroom and just start talking about her and then do coke or something off the toilet? Forgot what she did. I'm
I
like,
mean, listen, man, I've heard stories about women going to the restrooms together and what they do. So I
yeah,
actually believe that more than her outright making fun of her to her face. I could see
yeah,
people doing things behind someone's back because you don't automatically like them. I believe
yeah.
that. So
Hmm.
that scene I was okay with, but for her to just continually say and do things towards her, like eventually, well, I don't. It just, yeah, no, it was just, I was over it.
I,
Yeah.
I will tell you when she finally goes to bed and throws the sheet over, and
Hmm.
I when she does the
That was
first
an awesome
time
shot.
thing. What?
That was an awesome shot.
Yeah, that
When
was an
she,
awesome shot. And I think that's and then she starts walking like into the back. I thought that's when I really got into the movie. I was like, okay, now I care about what's going on.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when they introduced the other character, I was like, okay, what? Like that drew me more in than the present time Eloise anything.
yeah.
Hmm.
No, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and I agree with you guys. And this is like my problem with it is that I think one of the flaws of the movie was like they were so gung ho for like painting this picture of like victimhood that it crossed into stuff that's not even relatable because it was so like just like the examples that you guys mentioned, but even like what stuck out to me was like the the fake the ghost girl, um in the 60s. she
Sandy?
yeah, it's Sandy, exactly. She wants to be this singer, so she meets this manager who gets her an audition. She auditions, and you think that it's an audition and that they're going to make her a singer, but they don't. Instead, the next time you see her performing, she's a backup dancer for another singer. It's like at no point is anyone forcing you to do anything. Like you can just say, "Oh, this didn't work out. Let me get another manager,"
Yeah,
or "Let me stop working at this club. This is, like you have so many options. No one is forcing you or pushing you to do this, and it's like, you being trapped in this world of masculinity and patriarchy has forced you, into not being able to follow your dream because now all of a sudden they've made you into a prostitute and that's your hell." It's like you're trying to like feed that,
yeah,
down my gullet too much that it's taken away from your movie. And I mean, I definitely agree with you guys on those issues. I guess for me, again, like Edgar Wright, his directorial skill, like still shone through enough that I was like, I enjoyed it. Like, even with its flaws, I thought the music was like awesome. There was a couple songs that I shazammed that
mhm.
were really good, and then yeah, like choices that he made. I really loved. Did you guys notice like at the beginning when they were just showing you like Ellie, like the footage was like grainy and
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
of course, like what she was wearing and like her room and everything. So I really was like, oh, this is set in the 60s. And then as she was on that train and it transitioned, I was like, oh man, that was awesome. I was I was actually kind of upset because I was like, I rented this in 4K. And
You gotta watch grainy film.
but I was like, what's going on here? And then it transitioned, and now I was like, oh, that's cool. Um, I did like the like boyfriend character. that she meets in fashion
That's
school.
and see, that's another thing. Why did it have to be a boyfriend? Why can't he just be like, yo, you got problems, I want to help you? Everything has to fall into, okay, well, now let's go have sex. And I'm just like, why? Everything is relationships, man. And
Mm.
I it doesn't really need to drive the story. Why can't he just be someone that wants to help her out? He sees that she's in trouble, but it's the typical man woman get together and that's it, you know.
Hmm.
um
Yeah, and I agree.
Um,
Like there, even with her, um, like let's say that was set in modern time, and I don't know. I mean, there are exceptions to every rule, but it was like, yeah, after the fourth breakdown or whatever, like, wouldn't you just like tell someone or like reach out or your grandma's like chasing you down, saying like, hey, if you need anything, like tell me. Like, I didn't get, yeah, just some of the choices that the characters made seem unnatural, and I guess I didn't really understand the motivation.
yeah.
I kept waiting for there to be a twist with that boyfriend guy.
Yeah.
His smile during the Halloween scenes were like creeping me out. I was like, oh, this guy is gonna do something.
Yeah, I kind of, I mean, at that point, you were kind of waiting for it to happen because there's been no one else around her that was helping her.
Yeah.
And Graham wasn't there. So, yeah, I kind of was expecting that. I will say, downtown kind of, I know you like the music, Juan, but hearing downtown, it automatically like killed it for me because I'm just
Seinfeld.
thinking of a little place to go where they never close downtown.
Yeah, I
So
picked
it's
that
just,
one up too.
I just, the lights are much brighter there. You could forget all your troubles, forget all your cares, just go downtown. So I was laughing at that, but I'm just gonna get into it. That ending was hilarious because I mean she shows up to tell Miss Collins, hey, I'm leaving. And Miss Collins says, hey, yeah, the cops came by. They think you're crazy. So see ya. But before
Hmm.
you leave, oh, yeah, I'm Sandy. And now I'm going to kill you. Like, what was that for? She
Yeah.
literally told Eloise, hey, look, the cops came and they think you're crazy. So you're good. She was gone out of this
Hmm.
woman's life. But for
Hmm.
some reason, she just decided to turn around and go, you know what? I'm Sandy, and now I'm going to kill you and your little
Yeah.
boyfriend too. Like it made no sense because Miss Collins already said, hey, your plan is foolproof. You're good. So once
Yeah.
that all started happening, I was just like, oh my gosh. I feel like they didn't know how to end the movie. And the whole thing with the mom at the beginning, they made it like they made it known that she saw her mom. And
Hmm.
on her first night in college, she calls her grandma, and her grandma goes, oh, did you see her again?
Hmm.
So like you don't realize when she says, did you see her again? It's about, the mom until
Hmm.
later on in the movie. And then like the description of the movie was, oh, she's mysteriously able to enter the 1960s. Like, what? What do you mean mysteriously able to? If you're telling me she could see her mom, then that explains it. So I don't understand why it's a mystery. And if it's a
Yeah.
mystery, why aren't we trying to figure out why she can see what's happening? You know?
Hmm.
So I don't know. It just felt like it was all kind of thrown together. Hey, this is a pretty movie, but outside of that, there's really nothing else here for you.
Hmm.
And I mean, the fact that they had Sam Claflin in there for what, 5 minutes? I mean, that's a disgrace right there.
Who?
He was the young cop.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I love
Oh
that guy.
yeah,
He's a great actor, man. And
yeah.
I saw him. I'm like, oh, awesome. And he disappears. So I was just like, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, it didn't feel like they knew what they were doing. I think they had an idea. Oh, what if this lady can see people? All right,
Hmm.
let's do it. And that was that. And then they just slapped something together.
Hmm.
I would say for me, like I think the thing I didn't like is the two quasi twists. Like I personally saw coming a mile away. Like when she thought that guy was, oh, spoiler, she thought that guy was Jack, and you're like, oh well, it's so obvious that he's not going to be Jack because they just keep pushing it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, and then he
Yeah.
dies, and like, oh, I'm like, all right, he's not Jack. And then the other part where like with that lady with her rules and stuff, I was like, oh man, maybe Sandy's not dead. Maybe it's gonna be this lady. And then when you saw her mail, Alexandra, like when she was grabbing her own mail, I was like, oh, it is her. I was like, I don't know how they're gonna explain it, but I was like, I just guessed it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and
Uh,
for her to
uh,
kill that many people and never get caught, I mean, I kind of find
yeah.
that hard to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then she stabbed that dude in the stomach, the boyfriend, and that dude was out for the rest of the scene. It was done.
Yeah, and then he pops up afterwards
Yeah.
for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Two things that bothered me were the boyfriend who, I'm just gonna say it, like, he was black. But the first time you see him, it's like outside of the building where she's in her dorm, and
Yeah.
he's like just like creepily kind of hanging out there, and she's
Yeah.
trying to get her suitcase up, and he's like, you got it or something, or she's like, I got it. He's like, you don't look like you got it. And so in my head, I was like, oh man, I think something's up with this guy. I don't trust him. So then,
Not because
as
he's
the
black.
no, as the movie went on, I was like, was that racist of me? And then, but then he turned out to be like a really nice guy. So I was like, no, I mean, that's when I felt like kind of betrayed. I'm like, I'm not racist. It's the way they portrayed the way they shot him. And
And
that
your
and that
right is racist.
like, she's already super paranoid because that taxi driver was a jerk. So they're making
Yeah.
it out, like scary London. And then
Yeah.
so I feel like they're trying to, point like, hey, don't be racist, don't think this guy's bad. But if you do, I mean, we've also made it out to be that way so that you do think that. But I guess maybe you guys didn't fall into that, so maybe it is just me.
No,
I
I
don't
didn't. I
know.
didn't think it was racist. I just thought it was like, okay, he's a man. He wants to have sex with you. That's. I mean, the cab driver,
Mm-hmm.
the black kid. I forgot his name. What was his name? I don't want to call him the black kid the rest of the time.
John.
John.
John, like, wants to have sex. The copper wants to have like all. If you're a guy in this movie, you want to have sex with Ellie and Sandy. That's kind of
Yeah.
how it is, and that's why
Yeah.
I think you had the feeling that this was a feminist movie, because all the guys are dirty dogs except for John. But we don't
Yeah.
learn that until close to the end when he actually tries to help. So
Well,
yeah, it's just I don't think you had a feeling that you were right, but I think because of the world we live in, you automatically went to, am I a racist?
but so here's the other major problem, like, again, with the agenda or the message of this movie, is that at the end, when she hears the story that's told, she doesn't, and it turns out like the ghosts were actually like crying out for help, like to be
Yeah.
freed from this like memory. She
Yeah.
sympathizes with the mass murderer instead of the 100 or whatever men that were killed. Again, so she went into a life of prostitution. Like, at no point do they. I mean, maybe she was like verbally coerced or like, whatever, but at no point was she forced to do these things. Like, she subscribed to this because of the goals that she had.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that that happens, but you can easily just give up on that dream and go do something else. And yet, this main character, in spite of that, still is like, oh, all you guys were murdered, but I don't feel sorry for you. Instead, I feel sorry for the murderer who made these choices.
Yeah, I think what was it at the end when she just looked at her and go, I know you didn't mean to do it.
Yeah. Just go. Let's leave.
Yeah, I will. The ghosts were very haunted mansionish. The way they were walking around, I felt like I was watching Haunted Man. I feel like I was on the ride.
Yeah.
They didn't look scary, but then they also, I don't know, they were just, here I am. I'm coming to get you. I don't know. It just good.
But me personally, I think it was meant that way. Like, she was supposed to be scared of them, but then we find out later that they're not really scary. They're they're more like victims than they are.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like, in retrospect, when you go back and look, at least that's what I got.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'll interject on it is I guess it's just our world, like our the way we view things are a little bit different.
Mhm.
Like, 'cause I know as a father of five little girls, like when I saw her make like you said when the Sandy was making these decisions, she went into prostitution and stuff. My thought, like this is what I was thinking. I was like, man, it just shows how like when you make one bad mistake and then you try to make another move, but you make another bad mistake. And again, as a dad, I was like, man, like my thoughts was like, man, where's the rest of her family? I guess she doesn't have a support system. And I felt sad for the girl because like she just kept making poor mistakes. Like she kept going into the prostitution and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And to me, again, it might be the father in me. I was just like, man, it sucks that this is like the way that you just start rolling, and it gets out of control. Next thing you know, you're slashing throats because you've had enough.
Right.
But
Well, and
see
I
that.
think seeing as you're a father of five, Kevin, I think you can agree that, as bad as it was in the '60s, like with women, that still kind of is true now. Women can't do things like a woman can't just go to New York or England by herself and start
Yeah,
working and know that everyone's got their best interests for me. That's not how it is. So I could see why that was happening like in the '60s because as a woman, you don't really have much you can do outside of, well, I'm a wife and I cook and clean and give birth to kids. Like that's kind of what the woman's role was back then. Um, I guess I can understand why she went into the prostitution, but they didn't really go too deep into it. I also do believe, yeah, if you don't want to do that, then go do something else. Be a
Yeah,
backup dancer. If you can't get the stage that you want, then start somewhere and work up from there. But I kind of get that whole trope that once you're stuck in that, you're stuck in that just because of the time it was.
yeah, and I think that definitely deserves consideration. But um, but also, and I think that that's again one of the problems with the storytelling with that character in particular is that the first time you see her, she's this extremely confident, right? Like commanding attention.
Hmm.
She's the one that's not manipulating, but she's using the attention that these men are giving her. And she's even like using it to her advantage. That exchange with the manager at first when she's like, I forgot what the actual dialogue was, but it was like, "Is that the least you can do?" And she
I
was
was
like,
gonna say, yeah,
"What's the
the,
most you can do?" Or like something like that. So
Yeah.
and but then she changed so quickly from like this, and that's what like was making her attractive was like the way she wore that dress, the way she walked, the way she like owned that room, and then how quickly she turned into like, oh, I'm powerless and I'm just a backup dancer and I'll just go into prostitution.
Yeah.
Like it didn't
well,
make sense.
I will say I do think there was time gaps when she was going back. I don't think it was like the next day when she went back. At least from what I gathered, like no, from when she did the audition to she was a backup singer, like it
Yeah.
felt like maybe there was weeks or months that that were in between there.
But see, like, and then again, that's I think a flaw in the storytelling, right? When you
Yes.
when you have to like rationalize it and like look
Yeah.
when like it wasn't sort of
Uh,
it wasn't given to you, it
it
wasn't
wasn't
told.
explained.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't told well.
And I only
Yeah.
figured that out because she was like at the audition, and then also she knows all these backup dancer moves that she was doing.
Hmm.
So no, that's
Yeah,
in my
yeah,
mind. I was like, oh, I guess in my head I was like, oh, I guess there's been some time that's passed.
Yeah. Yeah. Understandable. But yeah, so I guess like as a whole, I didn't really enjoy the movie. I feel like if I wanted to watch a horror movie that wasn't so serious, there's other options out there. I could say I saw it, but I probably will never watch this again.
yeah,
Yeah, just it was meh. It was meh to me. Meh.
yeah. I mean, I would say if you are an Edgar Wright fan, you probably want to watch it, because again, there's enough worthwhile there with the choices that he made. from behind the camera and what, and visually really good. Again, like I said, the music is really good. I thought the acting was good.
Yeah.
Um, but it just makes me wish that, I mean, I get why artistically you need to expand and you can't write movies with Simon Pegg forever. And but this he co-wrote, with a lady, and it just kind of, when kind of message or whatever supersedes just like telling a good story, or like making a good film, like this is what you're left with. And I feel like when it was him and Simon Pegg like writing those movies, they were like, hey, let's tackle this genre and let's just make an awesome movie. And like
Yeah.
that was the end product that you got. With this, it's like, again, kind of wasting a good director with, a poorly written story.
Well, we don't know if he's a good director just yet.
I mean, so
Like,
far he's at least what, three out of, he's like 50-50.
All right, fair enough. I think I'm just giving him
some,
a hard time.
some of
I
us
mean,
think he's more than 50-50, but okay.
that's right. And listen, I can't knock Scott Pilgrim too much because I feel like I just didn't get it, because I didn't read the comic book. Like, so I'll give you that one, but Baby Driver is terrible. And partly, I think maybe if Baby Driver would have came out before
Before Driver
before Drive,
or Drive,
um,
yeah.
then
Yeah.
maybe that would have been better. But when you're like they're so, that at least the idea of them is so similar, and you stack them up next to each other. Don't look at anything else that Nicholas Winding Refn has done, but
I'm
I
just gonna
bet
say Drive came after Transporter, and you have no problem with it.
hey,
Well, I mean, you
I'm
can't
just
compare
saying.
anything that Jason Statham's in because I mean it's going to be better than anything you put it up against, bro.
Great Jason.
also, what is it with these guys, like these English directors, Edgar Wright, Guy Ritchie? I can't think of any others, but they have a real fetish for like shots of drinks being poured. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I guess because on that side of the pond, man, there's really nothing else to do but drink.
Well, it's
It's
true.
raining all the time. You're not going to go outside.
Matthew Vaughn also, yeah.
There you
Oh
go.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
here's an homage to me homeland. Let's pour some drinks in every movie.
But that's what it is. It's the best part.
Dude, by the way, there's an awesome video on YouTube of like this year or last year, like Guy Ritchie going back and watching Snatch like for the first time since he made it. It's
Yeah,
it's, it's really good. It's a good video.
interesting.
Yeah.
Did he tear up?
He was laughing really hard, and then yeah, he was just
You
like giving
farted?
some. It was funny because he was like really enjoying it. Like he was like, "This is a really good movie," and I was like,
All right.
like
It kind of sounds like he's yanking his own chain there.
it was like there was definitely a little bit of that, but it was also like he was really enjoying it, so it was
Yeah,
kind
no,
of
it was good.
tender
He went
too.
he went
But
Quentin
it,
Watching his
Tarantino on
face.
that. He's like, best movie ever.
yeah, it reminded me of the Aziz Ansari joke about Kanye West about these beats are dope, listening to his own music. But yeah, watch that video. It's a
Yeah,
good
no,
one.
I would like to watch that. I only want to go to Ireland just to drink. I want to go to the pubs and drink.
Dude, a pub crawl in
Yeah,
in Ireland or England
telling you,
would be
I
awesome.
probably wouldn't come back.
By the way, I'm currently watching The Crown on
Yeah,
Netflix, which is a really good show about the monarchy. But Matt Smith from Last Night in Soho, who played the pimp, plays Prince Philip in The Crown. So I've had a lot of images of him uh, in my face.
all right. Are you a fan of I guess English TV?
Oh, I mean, you can ask Kevin. I've been a fan of English everything for a long time. I should have started with that at the beginning of this podcast. Um, yeah.
All right.
It
Why
was
why the obsession?
Um,
Manchester
it
United.
it started. Yeah. It actually. I mean, it's Austin Powers, David Beckham. Yeah, English football. Um,
Fair enough.
yeah. English
Right.
movies, English music. I mean, the Beatles. So yeah,
English food?
I was a teenager, and uh, yeah, all those things appealed to me.
Did you
Still
enjoy
do.
the English food?
English, I love. I mean, I can't say that I've had authentic. I've never been to England, so I can't say that I've had a authentic English food. But I do enjoy a good dish of fish and chips with some malt vinegar and some ketchup. I don't know if that's how they have it in England, but that's how I like it. And one of my best experiences though, like watching soccer, was I had a friend in college that was English, and he took me to like an authentic English pub to watch a World Cup England game.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, man, that was an awesome experience. But I did tell my wife earlier this year that number one on my bucket list of like travel destinations is going to England to watch like a live English Premier or any division really soccer game, and
Mhm.
also like hitting up some pubs and watching some soccer games in pubs.
All right. I guess outside of Colombia, have you been anywhere other than the US?
Yeah, I've been to Chile.
Oh,
I
okay.
went there for one of my cousin's quinceañera, and I've been to the
Costa
Dominican
Rica.
Republic. No, Dominican Republic, which is
Ah,
where I met my wife. And
Wait, in the what?
yeah, dude, we met on a missions trip in the Dominican.
Oh, you guys went together from the same church.
No, different churches,
What?
different
I,
churches, same organization.
I feel you didn't hear the story at the wedding, Mark.
I was drunk, bro. Come on, man.
Plus, he had driven like I don't know how many miles, hadn't
True,
slept. Yeah.
Yeah,
true,
man,
true.
that weekend's a blur, bro. I only remember the drive back and screaming at my steering wheel at 4 in the morning to stay awake as I'm driving through Virginia. Um,
God, I hate Virginia.
yeah, no, that's
Oh
the
yeah.
worst. So yeah, I just I don't remember from that wedding, unfortunately. I remember
Dude,
the I do. That's what matters. I
okay.
remember the I do.
A friend of mine told me a story about getting pulled over. He got pulled over in Virginia, and every time the cop would say Virginia, he would beforehand he would say like he would preempt it with the great state of Virginia. He was like, "Do you realize you're in the great state of Virginia?" Like every time he said it, he had to preempt it with that great
Oh
state.
man, that's a
It,
boy that loves Virginia, and
Hmm.
he's probably
it's
wider than a slice of bread.
it's funny. If Sky was awake, my 6-year-old, like if I told her what do we hate, she says the only two things we hate are the devil and Virginia, and not necessarily in that order. I was like, she just walks away.
Man, there's some real deep rooted hate here for Virginia. I love it.
Hey,
Yeah,
Virginia is for lovers.
It's
yeah,
supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
because you can't leave it. It's so freaking long.
So you have to love it.
All right, so I guess to wrap this up, we're going to rate this from 1 to 3 little Jerry's.
All right.
So,
Before we wrap up, I do want to say one thing though that we
oh,
didn't
Yeah.
touch on, which I
fire away.
personally really liked about the movie.
Okay.
Um, I touched on it a little bit. I could have done with less of present day Eloise storyline, and I really like the fact that like she was like an outsider now, but she bonded a lot with this past vision she was having,
Mm-hmm.
to where
Yeah.
she like even the part where she broke through the mirror and just hugged her and
Yeah.
she cared
She got
about her. Like
she
to
got the
me,
hickey.
I yeah, she got the hickey, and even when she came back and she said that same line about oh that's the least I can do. What's the most you can do? Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would have been fine if it was just a story about that past girl, and it ends up with her dying. And you're like, oh man, like she feels like she had a friendship and she lost it.
Mm,
It
You know what I mean?
this should have been a who done it movie, and she's reliving this girl's life
Yeah,
up until the moment that she was killed, but she doesn't see the ghost, she doesn't see anything like that. She just has to
yeah,
find out why was she killed and who did it. And
mm,
yeah. I could have done. Yeah,
it didn't have to be the pimp, it could have been anyone.
mhm,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, no, I agree. That
yeah,
was interesting.
yeah.
But that's also what bothers me is that they didn't really explain why. Why even the description, it was mysterious. So, and they tried to touch on it with the beginning by mentioning, oh, did you see her again, speaking about her mom? So it's kind of like, they're trying to let you know, hey, she sees things. And okay, I get that. But now she's interacting and all these different things. So
yeah, I just thought the ghost in the present time, even with the library and just trying to stab one and almost killing her, like hitting that girl.
Yeah.
I just thought it was much. I'm like, I just rather see her interact more with this past life.
Yeah. That is true. I agree there.
Did a couple things too. So I really liked, actually. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you guys caught this, but I thought it was a cool detail. So the first time when she went to the library, well, the only time, and she was looking through all those newspaper articles, and it was like all these, missing people or dead people, and then it turns out that those were the men, that the girl had killed, but you didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool connection.
Yeah.
But then also you mentioned that guy Jack, who, like, dude, who gets run over by a car in the middle of broad daylight on a completely empty street, by a taxi driver? Like, what kind of taxi driver is this mowing people down?
He's blind, man. Come on.
And I like the fact that Eloise almost got hit twice, but nobody hit her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The cab driver was driving a Tesla.
That's pretty good. Well, I'm gonna throw mine out. I give it one little Jerry. I would not.
Wait. Yeah, one Jerry is nay, two Jerrys is meh, and three Jerrys is yay. So one little Jerry for Mark.
One little Jerry for me.
Kevin?
Okay, because I didn't think it was meh for the parts that I did like, so I would probably give it. Can I give it like 2.5 Jerrys, even though I think that's too strong?
Our first halfsy. You got it, man. I love that.
Our first halfsy that he's admitting is too strong.
No, because maybe 2.25. I don't know, because it's not a 2. The way you described it, it's not a 2. It's not a meh.
Our first halfsy and our first quarter in one.
Kevin's on his own system. I give it 2 little Jerrys. I give a quarter Kramer and about a 3-piece George. That's where he's at.
Keep a dash of putty.
Keep it English, bro. Do 2 pints. 2 pints of Jerry.
Oh man.
2.25 Jerry's.
So you're going 2.25?
Yeah, I'm gonna do 2.25.
Okay, I'm gonna do 3 little Jerry's if you're an Edgar Wright fan. If not, I'm going just man. I'm going 1.5 Jerry's.
All right, so you have to be an Edgar Wright fan.
If you happen to have just an affinity for the man, and why not? You're probably gonna watch all his stuff anyway. So
what if I'm an Edgar Allan Poe fan?
Definitely.
All right.
I feel like there's an homage in there. There's something subliminal that made me think Edgar Allan Wright.
Dude, how great would that be if he does that in all his movies? He puts some subliminal message that takes you to Edgar Allan Poe, but you don't realize it. And that's why you always think of Poe when you think of Edgar Wright. He's doing it to us.
He is that bastard.
There's so many levels to that, man.
Anyway, all right. I think we've done the best we could here, gentlemen. Valid effort. I had fun. That's all I care about.
There you go.
I had fun. So we'll do this again soon.
Who's picking the next one?
Oh,
Kevin, go. I'll go last.
Wait, what? Oh, wait, I have to pick now?
No, not right now.
I was like, go.
Yes, pick right now. Go.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, I don't know what's out there.
We'll reconvene. We'll reconvene soon.
We'll discuss.
Think about it till then.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right, gents.
It's been a
Good
pleasure.
night and good fight.
Edgar Allan Poe, R.I.P.
All right.